It's wonderful to welcome the musical duo Days of Lavender. I was going to say Lavender. Uh,
Lavender. That's fun too, actually. That sounds pretty cool. Hi.
uh, they're based in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and they are respectively Stephen Clarke, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly,
Mhm.
Daniela Gunn-Doerge. Doerge.
Perfect, actually. Much better than most people. Thank you.
Wonderful. Stephen is responsible for the bass and the Ableton push, and Daniela is responsible for the vocals of the band. Stephen, Daniela, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. We just,
Yeah, really good. We just what did we do? We just went for a nice run and had a meditation right before jumping on this chat. So yeah, we're
Wonderful.
in a nice headspace.
yeah. And this past weekend we were playing at a festival, and so we're feeling really full from that as well. It was really nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so we're recording in the 2nd of September. So did Labor Day weekend just pass or is it like the upcoming weekend?
Yeah. Labor Day weekend just passed. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And that was when the festival was?
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Rise Festival. It took place in Headley, BC, and it was yeah, very wellness focused. And we had the privilege of playing a sunset set on the Friday evening. So yeah,
Mhm.
that was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were right next to the Snoqualmie River and these beautiful mountains with the sunset on them on either side. It was a really beautiful way to do our music was to sing to mountains and to a river.
Wonderful. So tell me more about your interest in wellness and meditation and all those practices.
Yeah. Well, Stephen has been a massage therapist for nearly 10 years now.
Just yeah, coming up to 10 years.
And I last 3 years have been teaching yoga, and I'm now training as a somatic therapist. And so wellness modalities are definitely of interest to both of us. Meditation and breath work and embodied practices and so we've kind of throughout our time making music, we've also paired it with movement. Sometimes we'll be jamming together and we'll just stop and do some yoga or dance or whatever. And so we feel like they're actually a really good pair. And a couple years ago, we started bridging our music with what we called ambient yoga. And so we would, and now we still do our ambient meditations. So it's pairing our music with movement and mantra and stillness and storytelling to create sort of one package of our music that sort of we can deliver to people in that way.
All right. And how does that cross over into the Days of Lavender music project?
Yeah, so all the songs that we'd be playing at these ambient meditations or these ambient yoga sessions, it's all original music that we wrote under the title Days of Lavender. They're just a little bit more drawn out, ambient, kind of slower versions of our songs. Um, and yeah, we'll still do like regular, rock and roll band shows. Um, but it's just nice to be able to have this offering and create a bit more of a community. Like this, it's a monthly event that we do. And
Yeah, it's basically a hybrid between a concert and a yoga class. And so we offer that every month in Vancouver.
Well, interesting. Yeah, I hope to join one of the sessions when I happen to be in Vancouver.
Yeah,
that'd be
please
lovely.
do.
Yeah,
Come
you
by.
should.
Okay. So were you two did you two grow up in Vancouver?
I technically grew up, I was born in Vancouver, but I grew up on Vancouver Island in Victoria. And then I've been living in Vancouver for about the last 10 years. Basically, when I started went to massage school is when I moved to Vancouver, and then I've been here ever since.
Yeah, and for me, I grew up in Ontario, so on the uh, east side of Canada, and now I lived in Victoria for a few years to do my master's degree, and then I've been in Vancouver for almost a decade now as well.
All right. Yeah. So, where in Ontario did you grow up, Daniela?
In Ottawa specifically. Well, I was born in Toronto, grew up in Ottawa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was at both cities. I was in Canada. I lived there for 4 years. That's where the radio show slash podcast began. Um,
Okay.
Mm.
yeah, I spent the majority of that time in Peterborough, which is the city that's close to both Toronto and
Yeah.
Ottawa. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Great.
Trent University is there, and it has a really good natural landscape.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day actually about Trent University and how progressive it is and how much it feels like you're in BC, but in Peterborough in a way, you know?
Certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I miss
great.
that city a lot.
Mm, yeah.
Okay. So how was the move from Ottawa or Toronto to BC going to you, Daniela?
Yeah. I mean, I people had always told me in when I was living in Ontario that I seemed like a BC person and I didn't know what they meant. And then I met a partner who was living in Victoria and came out here just I thought I would just come to visit maybe for a little while, maybe a month or so, and I totally fell in love with it. I fell in love with the landscape and the mountains and the ocean, and I couldn't believe that that I was able to, call this place home with a Canadian passport. So, um, yeah, it became pretty clear pretty quickly that it was going to be perhaps my home moving forward. And yeah, I guess culturally speaking, it's a little bit different, a little bit more progressive, and that just suited me well as an artist and as someone interested in wellness and social movements and social services. So it was a good fit for that reason.
Okay, yeah, glad to hear it. How did you two meet?
Well, great question. Um, we met during COVID, actually on a dating app. I think it was Hinge. So yeah, we met by actually going on a date, and then after I think maybe like on our third date, I brought her into my music studio because I realized that she was an incredible singer, and yeah, and then we started writing music together pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So started with romance, you could say, and then very quickly, yeah, turned into a creative project.
Yeah.
And so now the goof is like when we play shows, we're like, oh, it's our date night. So
Hmm.
'cause we're always doing music, so yeah, we kind of just like say that that's part of our romantic life, our dating life.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice because I feel like the music like supports our relationship and the relationship supports our music. And so I think, yeah, it's cool to be able to have like a project between the two of us. So it's not just about he and I, it's not just about our relationship with each other, but there's some third thing that we're kind of co-creating together, which I think is feels like a really beautiful thing to have.
Hmm.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you realize that the likelihood of meeting someone on Hinge and starting a committed relationship with them during COVID time is mathematically all close to impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. It's probably true. I don't know how it worked. Something the stars aligned somehow.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
really did.
Something
That
miraculous
was,
is at work, obviously.
yeah,
That's what it feels like.
that yeah,
That definitely felt true. Yeah.
yeah, and that was about 4.5 years ago now. So yeah.
Hmm.
So that would be 2021, eh?
Hmm.
That's right.
And yeah, it sort of started when we were first dating. Like um I had like written all these beats, and it was initially Danny just like kind of singing over the things that I had already created. So it was very much like her jumping on my work. And we did that for, maybe almost a year. And then it slowly morphed into us like co-creating from the start. And
Hmm.
that's where the magic really starts. When people ask like how long we've been a band, we usually say about 3 years, even though we've been technically doing it for about four, but like what Days of Lavender is today, that feel like it started 3 years ago when we're like, no, let's actually start writing things together from scratch and really like truly co-creating and not just like you being a singer, throwing down on my beats kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that was kind of a, after a year, because as a singer, I've always been singing on other people's things or singing what other people wanted me to sing. I was a wedding and funeral singer for many years. I was in lots of choirs, and I was always singing someone else's music. And here I felt like I was again singing someone else's music. And so I think I got to a point where I was saying, Stephen, I think I want a name change. I want to be called something else. I want to be called Days of Lavender. And I want to write with you. I want to learn to produce at least to a certain degree, and I want to write the music with you that I'm singing on. And so that I think changed how our music sounds by quite a lot.
All right. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, what is the typical songwriting session look like?
Fun question. Yeah. Well, for the majority of our writing career over the last 3 years, we set aside all of our Fridays specifically for being in the studio. And I mean, it varies quite a bit, but sometimes, one of us, often Stephen, will like have a seed of an idea, or we will have already had a melodic idea or something, and then we'll be in the studio and then just kind of, um, yeah, sitting with it until something emerges from it. But usually the seed of the idea comes from one of our adventures. So Stephen and I we do backcountry camping in the mountains here in BC, and we'll be up in the mountains and just running around and exploring. And then often, I'll think of something, or we'll come up with something, and a melody will come out of that. And then I'll maybe record it on my phone, and then when we get back to Vancouver, we'll have that seed of an idea that we can then plant and let grow in the studio.
Hmm. And then also what we do is because we do a lot of jamming. I think that's kind of like our live show, I feel like is where we really shine. So just as a fun way to hang out, we'll jam and um, we perform a lot of our music using my Ableton Push, so it's like a kind of a beat pad, push pad thing. So when we write a song, what I'll do is I'll break the song apart. So like we've recorded a song, it's finished, and now we want to transfer it so we can perform it live. So what I'll do is I'll take all the individual like files, like the kick drums, the snares, I'll break them all apart so I have access to each one separately. And then when we jam, we'll be like mixing and matching different sounds together. And then maybe Danny will start singing something completely different. And we'll morph all these different songs together and it'll actually create something completely new. So we'll take something that we already have, do almost like a different version of it, use that as the jumping off point, and it'll like morph into like a new song and then we'll kind of then write things specifically for that. So it's almost like we're like recycling or like composting like previous ideas. And I find it's a nice way to kind of keep things in like a general sort of tone or feeling. So I feel like that definitely happened a lot with the album that we have coming out. Yeah, it's funny. We one of the first songs we wrote was this song called Moss Town, and it's yeah, we were in this like beautiful mossy place on Salt Spring Island. It was kind of honoring Danny's origins of being in a Motown band growing up, and then from that, I think Danny recorded so many different vocal parts that I turned into really interesting samples and like more for like the live version of it. And then from that, I think so many different songs were created, which I think is fun because moss is a very collaborative plant, and a lot of plants actually like use moss as a foundation to then grow out of. So that's kind of what happened with our album. We wrote this one song, and then so many other songs kind of like grew out of that one song. Um, so that's also a way we do things. But yeah, I'd say we don't have like a set, like this is the way it happens. Like it always starts with the piano line or it always starts with the vocal line. And like, yeah, it's really fluid and it changes quite drastically song to song, but just a couple of ways that we do it.
Okay. Yeah. So the new album, your debut album, is titled Already Everywhere. Uh,
Hmm.
Hmm.
according to Nina Marinas, your publicist or my contact person, the album will come out November 6th. Right. Uh, I'm asking you to confirm it. Is that correct?
I think November 7th,
Okay.
November 6th, we're having our album release party.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So November 7th is
Mm.
when the album will come out. So I'm guessing I'll probably tailor the release of this podcast around that time or after. So just so to coincide with the release date.
Awesome.
Lovely.
Okay. So because the album has not come out yet, so why don't you give us a teaser of what the album will consist of?
Yeah, well, it's a collection of songs that we've worked on over the last 2 years, perhaps, and um, a lot of the songs. I mean, they were all written sort of in different spaces and different times, but I think the overall theme that they all have as a collection is that they're all songs um, that we have created that are sort of ways that we're maybe um, processing our own experiences, um, particularly like when so Stephen and I, yeah, we sometimes use psychedelics sort of when we're out in the mountains, and we have these real connective experiences with nature, real connective experiences with the divine energy, um, and all of these lessons kind of come out of those moments. And then there's always the question of how do you really integrate and live all of these lessons that you've learned around, how to be love and compassion and how to send that out into the world, and how to be gentle with ourselves, and how to be, you know, consider our self-worth and our care for the land, and so I think a lot of those lessons that we're sitting with, our songs are kind of ways to think about how do we really integrate that into our everyday, into our habits and relationships.
That's cool. Yeah. And hopefully you telling me on a public forum that you've taken psychedelic substance will not land you in trouble in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean we're very, very fortunate to live in a place like Vancouver, BC, where a lot of the those particular, I mean, a lot of psychedelics are actually sold publicly now in storefronts.
Decriminalized.
It's decriminalized, and so we're able to talk about it. And even though I know in many places it would seem like we wouldn't be able to, but we also think it's important because I think that they, if they're used intentionally and with a lot of thought and care, that they can be extremely therapeutic in supporting us in learning and coming back into remembering our higher selves and our divine purpose. And so I think they can be tools for expansion and for opening, and so we're advocates for the decriminalization of psychedelics, and we're just glad to be in a place where that's the case.
Hmm.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. For me personally, real life is already way too overstimulating, so I don't think I can take it.
that's fair.
That's fair.
Very fair.
Yeah. Okay. So do you find yourself more inspired when outside of nature and obviously with the help of, you know, psychedelic substances, or do you place say objects, or do you decorate your house or your living space in a way that brings inspiration to you?
Hmm. Fun question. Yeah, I think we're deeply inspired by nature, and um, deeply inspired by the relationship that, Indigenous people all over the world have had with nature. And, as someone who's a white settler in Canada in a place like BC, and kind of like undoing sort of some of the harm that maybe colonization has done even within our own bodies and within ourselves. And so, yeah, I think coming back into that relationship is like maybe one of the more important things for us, and I think comes into our music very deeply. And this past summer we hosted a retreat on Salt Spring Island, that was a weekend long retreat with other musicians and breathwork facilitators and yoga instructors and conscious dance facilitators, and about 30 people who came to live on the land and to learn about what the connection between spirit and land might look like for them. And land stewards, people talking about what does it mean to open yourself up to communicating with plants. We think of them as these like inanimate beings, and they're not alive in the same way that we're alive. And so how can we decolonize that idea in our minds and be open to that? And so we had a weekend of kind of encouraging that. And yeah, I think for me it feels really important that we do bring the outside in, that we're reminding ourselves that we're not these sort of sterile, separate beings that are not connected to nature. And I think sometimes our living spaces can reflect that. And so how do we remind ourselves that we're not that disconnected at all?
Certainly. Um, one of the, I think the first uh, Catholic person to be declared a saint in the church is an Indigenous Canadian woman. Oh, sorry, in North America.
Mm.
First North American saint is a Canadian Indigenous woman, Saint Catherine de Caquita, Mohawk.
Oh yeah, right. I grew up Catholic as well, so I that
Mhm.
that was she was one of the saints that we would pray to in my church.
Yeah, yeah, you should. Yeah, her story is deeply inspiring. And of
Mm.
course, another saint for those who love nature is Francis of Assisi. Yeah, I really should go to that place in Italy to visit his church. But Saint Francis was amazing. He would like talk to birds, and there's a story about how there's this one town in Italy that was like terrified by a wolf, and Francis just with the help of the Holy Spirit just approached the wolf and pacify it. So he would make all these like great poems about. This is a good one called the Canticle of the Sun, which is
Mm.
just a great paean to mankind's responsibility towards nature and how nature is the reflection of God.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah,
So,
beautiful. Thanks for bringing that in. Totally. Yeah,
so
it's
hopefully,
woven through everywhere, right? It's like it's woven in our culture, but you just sometimes you have to look for it, and so that's beautiful that that's connected with you.
mhm. Yeah. Of course, the previous Pope Francis named himself after Saint Francis, and he has this great document called Laudato Si. So I believe it's called it's Latin for praise be, and it's about mankind's responsibility to nature from a
Mm.
Christian Catholic perspective. So hopefully you find that document inspiring in some way.
Yeah, very, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So what do you hope your music would achieve?
Yeah, I guess I would love our music to just kind of remind people that of our interconnectivity with nature, with each other. I kind of have this saying like to remember oneness. So that's kind of like my ultimate goal of our music is to help people remember our sense of oneness with each other. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And I think in this time there's so much that there's so many pressures on, whatever modern society. There's war and there's climate catastrophe and there's, increasing uprisings in different countries around the world. And I think in the midst of that, it feels like there's all this urgency that we need to, we don't want to think about art and we don't want to think about expression and freedom. There's no time for that. And I think that the more that I'm reading, poets and scholars that I really connect with and trust, is that actually that's the time where you need to come back to slowness. You need to come back to art and to yourself, to meditation, um, because I think that allows you to find balance in a world that maybe doesn't feel so balanced. And the more that we can tend to ourselves, and the more that we remind ourselves that art and being a creative, being a creator, being part of this divine mystery and remembering that we're part of that is uh, is as much a part of the picture as anything we might do in the manifest world of, do quote unquote. the importance of being and the joy of being, even in the face of darkness. How can we find joy and expression? And so that feels important to find balance with these days.
And yeah, just also like meditation is very important to us. So just on like a practical note, just like inspiring people to, adopt their own meditation practices. Like when we have these group sessions, we want to make it this like wonderful, kind of exciting experience, and then people get inspired and then go home
Hmm.
and then continue that practice on their own.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't necessarily have a contemplative practice. I didn't for a lot of my life. And it's really, it's really transformed so much of my life. And I think we have people coming to our ambient meditations who come just because they want to hear the music. And at the end of the sessions they'll come up to us and they'll say, like, I haven't meditated in I don't know how long, or years perhaps. And it's a reminder of how good it feels to just be in stillness and to be in that contemplative, prayerful,
Judgment free.
judgment-free kind of flow state. And so I think it's for some of our friends, and people who come to our shows, it's been a really nice way to reconnect with that contemplative practice.
Yeah, certainly. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do find that I would say one of the lies, so to speak, that the modern world and especially the modern Western world has placed on all of us really is the idea that we are doers first. So
Hmm.
we define ourselves by what we do either for a living or for recreationally. So yeah, so for example, I see you as a musician and you see me as person who makes a podcast. But deep down, I think we should place ourselves as beings first, and that would be the start of how should we be rather than what should we do. I think that comes
Hmm.
second.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because if we're being from a place of love and compassion and whatever, then whatever we do, will come from that beautiful place and that centered place. So yeah, totally agree. Thanks for bringing that in.
Mhm. I'd like to mention one of the songs from the album, yeah, Already Everywhere. Just a reminder to the audience that really stopped me on my tracks. I believe it's number 9 on the track list. It's called Pray 2, and it's a rather intriguing track. So tell me more about the making of it.
Yeah, for Pray To. You want to do this one?
Yeah, how do we go about doing this? Um, yeah, I guess it started as like wanting to know what is the nature of reality, like what happens after we die, like where are we going, like what are we? Um, and kind of like seeking answers almost like outside. And then I feel like it all kind of, and yeah, it also stems from us, both Danny and I being raised in religious families, I'm Christian, Danny Catholic. We both actually started playing music in the church in some capacity. And so we kind of have that sort of spiritual religious background. And just like I remember how beautiful it was to have this like God or to like pray to, and I'm like I miss that. I want that. Like give me something. I want that again. But I want the truth. And I didn't, and so it's almost like us kind of like rediscovering our faith, and maybe from like a different perspective. But then I kind of like realizing that in my opinion, it is all kind of the same thing, and it's just like different hands pointing to the same thing. And I guess the conclusion of this song is like I'm looking out, and then actually you look back, and so it's almost like reflect like the divine is a reflection of ourselves, I guess is the conclusion that we kind of come up with. That like I mean I believe that we're all part of this collective consciousness, and we're all like kind of slivers of the divine, and it's sort of like the process of discovering that. And maybe it's not what I thought it was, or like you have this idea of this expectation of what faith or your spirituality should look like, and then it's us like kind of I guess kind of stepping outside of that and then just being open to what the truth is. um yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of what that song means to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, totally. I loved everything you said. I almost don't want to say anything else because I loved it. But yeah, I think we both found that growing up in our childhood there was one way to experience the divine, and that was, in church, and this is what God looked like, and this is how you pray, and almost very prescriptive. And I think for both of us, there came a time where you know, it didn't that formula didn't necessarily fit. Um, and so we both, I think, took a break from sort of organized religion and in those ways, and not necessarily that I think, I think it was just like, yeah, this curiosity of like what is it that I pray to now? I thought there was this guy in the sky, and now I'm thinking that maybe that's not all there is, or maybe that praying in this particular way or to these scriptures is not the only way to do that. And how could I say that one religion is better than another one, like just because I grew up in one context? And so I think all of these questions that we have, as we're coming into our adulthood, are really important ones. And and so and then I think we want to know, how do we deal with the big questions of like, if the person that I love dies or whatever, like what am I left with and how do I understand that? And so I think pray to and then already everywhere, in some ways are ways of preemptively dealing with, the grief that will come if a loved one dies, but what is it that I can understand about my relationship to the divine now that allows me to stay close to someone even if I'm not with them, or if they were to pass away. How do I understand that we are already everywhere, that we're not going anywhere, which are lyrics that Stephen writes in that already everywhere, that final song as well. So um, yeah, that's
That's
what I'd
cool.
say for now.
So, how do you know when or if you're in the presence of the divine?
Well, great question.
Yeah, great question. I mean, sometimes it feels very, very clear and very obvious to me, like when you're in certain places, you're listening to music that really hits you in a beautiful way, or you're in the middle of a dance, or you're out in nature and everything just feels so obvious that the miracle of life is blossoming in front of you. Um, but then I think there's other moments where you're in contemplative practice, or you're even not necessarily in a good place or a good state. And sometimes you're reminded, like, right, that the divine is also here. Um, and so, yeah, I'd say being in the presence of the divine is really, I mean, if you're in your own presence, which is all the time, then you're likely in the presence of the divine, and seeing that in yourself, I think, is important, and seeing that in others, in nature, in everything.
Yeah, for me, it's as simple as everything gives off frequencies, and so I believe everything is the divine. Trees, animals, us, like we're all pieces of the divine, and everything is giving off these like frequencies. And I think if you can, I find what when I'm like have emptied myself of like my ego or my thoughts or my preconceptions, and I can just literally harmonize with the frequency that's coming in, and I match that frequency and kind of sing with it, like something happens, and then there's this just sense of oneness where it's like, oh, like I'm in the presence, I'm harmonizing with the divine. And I've like it can be like holding like a stone and feeling what this like the stone just, off giving off its frequency. It can be like putting my hand on a tree. It can be listening to someone sing a song from their heart and just like empty yourself of your ego and just fully resonate and harmonize with what's coming in, matching that signal. And then there's just like something beautifully magical that happens. And yeah,
In that moment of
in that
connection.
moment of like deep connection, and you're just like your ego's gone and you're just fully that thing. You're just resonating with that signal that's coming in, and almost like not applying like so much information comes in, and then our egos ask the question, how is this relevant to us? How can we use this? And almost like letting go of that voice and like how is it applicable to me? And literally just witnessing that signal, that energy, that frequency and matching it. And so it's almost like you don't exist anymore. You're just that. And I think, what was that?
I am
I
that.
am that. Yeah. And I think so. It's like when I can sit in those moments, that's when I feel closest to the divine.
Totally. Yeah. For me, my encounters with the divine is most recognized when I feel utter beauty and utter peace. So if there's if there is a beauty that just takes my breath away and I have no words to describe it, or I feel an undescribable sense of calm and fully within myself, which obviously cannot be achieved at any point of the day, then sure, I know that that is when I encounter it. But
Mm,
what I find as a person of Christian faith um, is that God can reside within you, and He can, if you let Him, make you a source of beauty and peace. So I think that I found to be the essence of Christian life, to be the reason why people believe that there is peace and beauty within the world.
mm, that's really nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I can definitely, yeah, connect with that. Something we always tell ourselves before we play shows is, all right, get out of the way and let the divine animate it, let it do its thing. Like, let's step out of the way and just be connect and let source animate us or the divine or God. And so it's something about, yeah, being, yeah, a signal
Mm.
for the divine. So, yeah, I love what you said.
And then there's something beautiful of that because then you're just fully witnessing. And I don't feel, I practiced this the other day when we were about to go on stage for the festival we were playing and just imagining like this isn't I'm clearing myself in order to be a channel for the divine and then like the nerves go away because it's not about you. It's not about your ego and what people are going to think of you. It's just you are creating enough space for the divine to flow through you and then you just get to watch. So then you're just like watching your own show, which is kind of nice.
mhm. Yeah, that's when you feel the freest, isn't it? Like when you are,
Hmm.
the more you are aware, or the more you act according to your egoism, the less free you feel. Like the most free you can be is when you realize that, the creator of the universe has entrusted you to do his work and you commit fully to it.
Absolutely. Hmm.
Yeah. So I'd like to pass on that question to you. How do you make yourself the reason why people believe that there's beauty and peace in the world?
So what do we do to, sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah.
I
Um,
needed
it's
that one too.
it's a little bit convoluted, but yeah. So how do you endeavor, so to speak, to make people believe that there is beauty and peace in the world?
Mm, yeah. I mean, I think to the best of our ability, especially when we're performing as Days of Lavender or we're presenting as Days of Lavender, just trying to exude that energy. So like what does it feel like to come from a place of peace and beauty and like living from that place of what would it what would it feel like in my body to walk with love and compassion or to communicate with love and compassion at the center of things. And I think I almost feel a certain level of responsibility, especially when we're performing or we're representing ourselves as a band, to really come through with that energy. Because it does feel like on a certain level we're ambassadors for that way of trying to be.
Hmm.
Not that we're perfect,
No,
and not
definitely
to
not.
not to try to, claim that we're, perfect or anything, but just that we're doing our best to um yeah, to flow with that energy.
And to like yeah, to share that energy, to try to like pick up on that channel and then share it, and then hopefully like people can kind of, yeah, connect with that energy and not necessarily like a what we say, but literally the kind of experience of what's flowing through us. And like I said, how I like to like resonate with the tree or something, like hopefully people can kind of like try to harmonize with the signal that we're putting out there, which hopefully is from a
Mhm.
place of the divine and not from a place of the ego.
Yeah, because it's one thing of like the what we're doing, like we're making music, it's like this is what we're doing, but it's a how we're doing it. And maybe this comes back to your point of being versus doing. It's like it's how we are delivering our music. It's the energy with which we are offering what we're offering, the way that we're trying to communicate through social media or whatever, like trying to make that as authentic as possible, so that what we're doing shines more brightly.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, the idea that, God, the creator, has entrusted us imperfect, flawed humans with the ability and the responsibility to do his work is something that I will always find to be profound.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So final question to you two. What does music mean to you?
Wow, so many things.
Nice.
Oh gosh. Yeah, music is a way, I think, to I guess just to tap into the different human expressions, to tap into people's souls, ways that we can like perfectly empathize with other people. Um, yeah, different signals that can kind of come and then you can resonate, whether it's like for healing, for connection, um, for fun to get you amped. It's such an incredible mood regulator. Like especially if you can kind of do your best to lose whatever is going on and resonate with the signal that's coming in. It can just be so beautifully healing to empathize with someone. Um, so yeah, incredible for emotional regulation, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, beautiful. How do I resonate with that question? I was thinking actually this last year, it was like, I think that music is what liberation sounds like. It's like it's the freedom, so many different types of music, obviously, but I think it's like getting into this flow state where you're creating sound, you're creating this vibrant frequency that you're communicating through space and time. And um, I think, yeah, I think music is what freedom sounds like, or liberation sounds like, in the same way that, dance might be what liberation looks like, or um, yeah, poetry is what liberation, speaks like, or whatever. So I think that's my simplest answer that I'll go with for now.
Yeah, and I think w- we're made in the divine's image. I think we're fragments of the divine, and we're not we're not supposed to just consume. I feel like we're put here to create. Um, and music is a way that I feel called to contribute, to create. For whatever reason, I just resonate a lot with music, and so I just feel like that's my way that I can contribute to the magic of being alive. Because I think it's so important for everyone to create in whatever way they can. Like, and it doesn't have to be like a painting or music. It could be literally just like an interesting conversation or an interesting way of walking or like just like constantly having the mindset that like we're here to create or literally like having a child and that whole thing. Um, but yeah, I just feel like music is my version of adding of being a creator and adding to the magic of being alive.
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Thank you very much, Stephen and Daniela of Taste of Lavender, for joining the show.
Thank
Thank you.
you.